Hello, welcome to Getting Started With, where our job is to make your job easier. On this episode, we're getting started with the data privacy basics for internal auditors. By the end of this video, you'll understand what data privacy means for internal auditors. Specifically, your professional responsibilities under the Global Internal Audit Standards, how to spot privacy risk in any audit, what internal auditors look for when assessing privacy, and how to work effectively with privacy professionals in your organization. So, let's get started. Here's something a lot of new auditors don't realize right away. You don't have to be assigned a dedicated privacy audit to encounter data privacy risk. It shows up in HR audits, finance audits, vendor reviews, operational audits, and more. Anytime an organization collects, stores, or shares information about people, there's a privacy dimension to consider. And as an internal auditor, that means privacy is always part of your job, whether it's in front and center or not. Before we talk about what you evaluate in others, let's talk about your own professional responsibility. Standard 5.2 of the Global Internal Audit Standards, Protection of Information, states that internal auditors must understand and abide by the laws, regulations, policies, and procedures related to confidentiality, information privacy, and information security. That's not about auditing someone else's privacy program, that's about you, personally. As an internal auditor, you have access to a lot of sensitive information. Standard 5.2 makes clear that protecting it is part of your professional obligation from day one. So what exactly is data privacy? Our first term to learn, data privacy, is the right of individuals to control how their personal information is collected, used, stored, and shared. In plain terms, organizations don't own the personal data they collect. The individuals it belongs to do. That's the mindset shift that drives everything else in this episode. When an organization collects someone's name, email address, health information, or financial records, they're being entrusted with something that belongs to that person. An internal audit's job is to help make sure that trust is honored. Here's the insight that changes how you approach every audit. Privacy risk is not just an IT problem. Privacy risk is a collective responsibility that lives across every part of the organization. HR collects employee records, finance processes payment information, marketing collects customer data, operations may handle patient or client details. Every department that touches personal information is part of the privacy picture. And that means, as an internal auditor, you should be thinking about privacy implications in every engagement you work on, not just the ones labeled as privacy audits. To spot privacy risk in an audit, you need to know what you're looking for. That brings us to our next term to learn, personal data. Personal data is any information that can be used to identify an individual directly or indirectly. That includes obvious things like names and email addresses, but also less obvious things like device IDs, location data, or combinations of details that together point to one specific person. In plain terms, if it can be traced back to a specific person, it counts. During any audit, when you see data being collected, stored, or shared, train yourself to ask, is this personal data? Because if it is, privacy controls should be in place. Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Imagine a new auditor named Jordan who is assigned to an operational audit of the HR department. Jordan's objective is to review the employee onboarding process, not a privacy audit. But during the walkthrough, Jordan notices that the team is collecting a significant amount of personal information from new hires, including information that doesn't seem directly related to onboarding. Jordan asks, why is this data being collected? How is it being protected? And how long is it being kept? It turns out there's no documented policy for retention or access. That's a privacy finding. And Jordan found it not by doing dedicated privacy audit, but by staying alert during a routine engagement. That's the mindset every internal auditor should develop. Here's a pro tip. When you encounter personal data during any audit, ask 3 questions. Why is this being collected? Who has access to it? And how long is it being kept? If there are no clear answers to any of these 3 questions, that's a signal to dig deeper. These questions work in almost any context, whether you're auditing HR, finance, marketing, or operations. There is a simple, practical way to build privacy awareness into every engagement without needing to be a privacy expert. So what does it look like when internal audit evaluates privacy? There are 5 questions worth building into your thinking for any engagement where personal data is involved. Does a privacy policy exist, and is it followed? Is personal data collected for a clear stated purpose? Is access to personal data limited to the people who genuinely need it? Are third parties who handle personal data properly managed and contractually required to protect it? And can the organization respond effectively if a data breach occurs? These aren't just questions for a dedicated privacy engagement. They're questions worth asking in any audit where you encounter personal data. That last question brings us to another term to learn, a data breach. A data breach is any incident in which personal data is accessed, disclosed, altered, or lost without authorization. In plain terms, it doesn't have to be a cyber attack. A misdirected email or an unlocked laptop can qualify. When you're reviewing whether an organization is prepared for a breach, you're looking for things like an incident response plan, clear ownership of the response process, and evidence that the plan has been tested. If none of those exist, that's a finding worth noting. Internal auditors and privacy professionals need each other. The Privacy Office owns the privacy program. Internal audit provides independent assurance that the program is working. Those are different roles, and they're both necessary. In practice, that means when you're planning an engagement with privacy implications, it's worth connecting with your organization's privacy office early. They can help you understand what types of data are involved, what regulations apply, and where the known gaps are. And when you find something during an audit, they're the right people to loop in. If internal audit and privacy professionals aren't talking, neither function is effective as it could be. You'll also encounter 2 more terms in privacy work, especially when reviewing third-party relationships. The first term to learn, data controller, is the organization that determines why and how personal data is processed. And the second term to learn, data processor, is a third party that handles data on behalf of the controller. In plain terms, the data controller is responsible and the data processor is accountable to them. Both matter to internal audit. Even if a vendor is handling the data, your organization remains responsible for what happens to it. That's an important principle to keep in mind when you're reviewing vendor contracts or third-party risk. If you haven't seen our episode on third-party risk yet, that one connects directly to this topic. Before we wrap up, here are some common mistakes to watch out for. First, assuming privacy only matters in dedicated privacy audits. As Jordan's example showed, it can surface anywhere. Second, treating privacy as an IT issue only. It lives in every department. Third, not asking who has access to the personal data during a walkthrough. Access controls are one of the most common gaps. Fourth, forgetting that third-party risk extends to personal data. Vendors who handle your organization's data need to protect it just as carefully as you do. And fifth, skipping the privacy office when planning an engagement with privacy implications. They're a resource, not a rival. Keeping these in mind will make you a sharper and more well-rounded auditor from early on in your career. Seeking training, certifications, mentorship, and challenging assignments can accelerate your growth. Avoiding these common mistakes can help you stay on track as you work toward the next step in your internal audit career. Thanks for watching Getting Started with Data Privacy Basics for Internal Auditors. Next, be sure to check out our episodes on third-party risk and data analytics to see how privacy connects to vendor oversight and how auditors work with data. You can find these episodes and other helpful resources, including tools, podcasts, and training, at the links below.